Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep, like really deep into something we all face, calamity. But not just calamity itself. You sent over this really thought-provoking piece on Musibah.
Right, the Arabic term.
Yeah, exactly. Calamity or trial. But the really interesting part is how it connects to faith, especially when things are tough. And we have a great combo to explore this with Surah At-Taghabun, verse 11 from the Quran, and like a truly powerful personal story.
And that verse, it's amazing because it doesn't sugarcoat hardship. It's like straight up calamities happen, but they only happen with God's permission. And here's the powerful part. The verse promises that whoever hold on to their faith during these trials will find guidance in their hearts.
So it's not just about getting through it, but about coming out the other side changed, right?
Exactly. It's about transformation.
Yeah.
But the big question is, how does that happen? How does having faith when things are falling apart lead to this inner guidance? That's what we're going to get into.
And we're going to do that through the story of a woman who went through some seriously intense stuff. Get ready, because her story is all about resilience and finding meaning when things are really hard.
Yeah, her story starts with losing her father. During COVID, no less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the grief, right? She was dealing with so much at once. Homeschooling, a tough work situation, being in a different country than her father when he passed.
It's like being hit from all sides.
Yeah, totally. And the source material really captures how raw it was for her. She says it's been almost like 2 years, but she can't forget how difficult those were. And still, it's not over.
Wow. That really shows how much those trials stay with you. And this is where Musibah gets really interesting. It's like these hardships aren't just random bad luck. They're experiences meant to test and ultimately strengthen our faith.
Like they have a purpose.
Right. It's not just that bad things happen, but that they can help us grow.
Absolutely. And that idea of hardship leading to guidance is right there in the Quranic verse. It says, whoever believes in Allah, he will guide his heart. And Allah is knowing of all things. It's like, if you have faith, then this guidance comes.
So we have to choose how to react, right? It's not about just accepting whatever happens, but about actively looking for guidance from Allah, even when everything's chaotic.
And that choice is so hard, especially when you're dealing with loss and pain. You start to question everything, like, why is this happening?
But even when we doubt, if we hold on to faith, we can find a deeper understanding. At least that's what this verse seems to be saying.
It's not just an intellectual thing, though. It's like your heart changes. The source material talks about how this guidance affects everything.
Yeah.
Thoughts, actions, even our emotions. It says, every beat the heart makes will be full of guidance. The heart is the one that feels pain, sadness, loneliness, aches of loss, isn't it? And Allah will remove all of it.
So it's about finding this inner peace, even when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. But how do we get there? How do we go from feeling totally overwhelmed by hardship to this place of peace?
That's where acceptance comes in. And it's a big part of what we'll be diving into next. It's funny. The source material actually flips the way we normally think about calamities. It basically says that Musibah isn't always a bad thing.
Hold on. How can something that causes pain and suffering not be bad?
Well, it's all about how you look at it. It's about seeing the bigger picture. The source material says that some hardships, even though they're hard, can lead to like serious personal growth, like a deeper understanding of yourself, your place in the world.
So it's not about avoiding tough times, but about realizing they can actually make us better.
Exactly. Think about the woman whose story we're talking about. Losing her father was heartbreaking, but it also brought her clarity. Like it helped her see what really mattered. Her health, her family, her connection with Allah. Those things became super clear because of the hardship.
It's like those trials wake us up. We start to see what's truly important.
And this connects right back to Allah's will, which is a big idea in the source material. It says, it was actually that Allah SWT wanted us to go through it, and we had to experience it. The pain, family issues, everything was meant for us, and it was happening with Allah's permission. How we were reacting were our decisions, but in the limited capacity that Allah had given to us, good or bad. It was Allah's will directly, and it is always His will. The duty of a believer is to constantly be content with it, whether one is happy or not. Whether it's a moment of joy or a moment of sadness, our actions and words shouldn't go against Allah. That is truly accepting, that we are the slave and he is my master, and we should accept what will happen.
Wow. So the source is saying that everything, good and bad, is part of Allah's plan, and that accepting this, even the painful parts, is a key part of faith.
That's a big idea, isn't it? The idea that Allah owns everything, even our lives. That can be hard to wrap your head around, especially when you're going through tough times. But the source says that this understanding can actually bring you peace.
It's like letting go of control, trusting that there's a bigger reason, even if we don't get it.
Yeah, but surrendering doesn't mean you do nothing. The source makes that clear. It says, the duty of a believer is to constantly be content with it, whether one is happy or not. It's about trying to make your actions and words line up with Allah's will, even when you're struggling.
So it's not blindly accepting fate. It's about actively looking for guidance from Allah and making choices that match our faith, even when it's hard.
Exactly. And that's where prayer and patience come in. The source really pushes the idea that when you face trials, you should pray and be patient. Seek help and strength from Allah. It even says, remember, whatever trial or test you might go through in your life, it's by Allah's permission and will. So whenever a trial hits you, cry, but don't curse or complain. Instead, ask Allah to help you straight away. Seek His help through prayer and patience, and He will put something in your heart that will guide you through the calamity. He will give you tranquility or strength you didn't know you could have.
That's beautiful. It reminds us that we're not alone. Turning to a higher power can give us the strength we need to get through tough times.
And it brings us back to that idea of guidance we talked about earlier. When we face trials with faith and patience, asking Allah for help, we open ourselves up to that guidance in our hearts. It's not about knowing all the answers, but trusting that we'll be shown the right path, even when things are rough.
It's about trusting Allah more, knowing that even when things are hard, He's there to help us.
And that trust can be really powerful, especially when you're dealing with problems that seem impossible. But this also brings up another point from the source material, the idea that all blessings and hardships come from Allah. This is a big idea that changes how we see our lives.
Yeah, if we really understand that, it can change everything. But it makes me wonder, if Allah owns everything and hardship is part of His plan, do we even have free will?
That's a really tough question. People have been debating that for ages. What we can say from the source material is that even though our ultimate fate is in Allah's hands, we still have some choice in how we respond to things. It's like we're given a set of circumstances, but within those circumstances, we get to choose how we act and what our attitude is.
It's like we're writing our own stories, but within a framework that's already there.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It shows that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we react and what we learn from those experiences.
And that choice, that ability to react with faith and ask Allah for guidance, really shapes our journey and our relationship with Him.
It's about realizing that even though we're human and have limits, we can still make choices that are in line with our faith. And that can push us to grow spiritually.
So even if we don't understand why bad things happen, we can believe that there's a reason for them. And by facing those things with faith and asking Allah for guidance, we can come out of them stronger and more connected to our faith.
Exactly. And that's a really hopeful message, especially for people who are struggling.
It reminds us that even when things are really dark, there's a light that can guide us to something better. So, with all of this in mind, what are some things we can actually do to be more resilient and get through tough times with grace? I think that's the perfect way to start the last part of our deep dive.
It was incredible, right? We started with this one woman's story about loss and resilience, and now we're talking about this profound idea from Surah At-Taghabun, that Allah owns everything, even the tough times. It's like it's all connected.
And I love how this source material doesn't just talk about these big ideas. It actually tells us what to do when we're facing Musibah, like real practical advice.
Yeah, you're right. It gives us tools to use when things get rough. So what does it say?
Well, it says that when you're struggling, turn to Allah. Like literally, it says, cry, but don't curse or complain. And then ask Allah to help you straight away. Seek His help through prayer and patience.
That's a big shift, right? Instead of getting angry or giving up, you connect with something bigger. Totally. It's like prayer becomes this lifeline, a way to find comfort and guidance when you need it most.
And that part about patience, it's so important when things are hard. It's not about just sitting there and taking it, but about trusting that Allah has a plan, even when we don't see it.
It takes a lot of strength to be patient like that. But it's like knowing that the sun will come out again, even after the worst storm. The source actually says that Allah will put something in your heart that will guide you through the calamity. He will give you tranquility or strength you didn't know you could have.
That's so true. It's like there's this strength inside us that we don't even know about until we really need it.
And that strength comes from faith, from knowing that even when it's hard, Allah is with us, guiding us, supporting us, even in the darkest times.
This whole deep dive has shown us that faith and resilience go together. Faith is what keeps us strong when life gets crazy.
And it's not just about getting through it. It's about letting those hard times change us, helping us understand ourselves and our relationship with Allah better.
So as we wrap up, what does all this mean for our listeners? For everyone out there on their own journeys with all the ups and downs?
I think the big takeaway is that everyone goes through hard times. It's part of life, but we don't have to let it crush us. When we face Musibah, we have choice. We can let it destroy our faith and make us feel hopeless, or we can see it as a way to grow, to become closer to Allah and to build resilience, because we know we're not alone.
It's about accepting what is, but also doing something about it. Putting our trust in Allah's plan, but still taking steps to follow His guidance and live according to our faith.
And that's a journey, right? It's all about learning, growing, and strengthening our faith. This woman's story, the wisdom from Surah At-Taghabun, the advice from the source material, it all points to the same idea, that faith can give us the courage and resilience to face anything, because we trust in Allah's plan.
This deep dive has been amazing. It's shown us how powerful faith can be, how it can guide us and give us strength even when things are really difficult. It's a journey we're all on. And yeah, sometimes it's hard and confusing, but ultimately it helps us figure out who we are and why we're here.
And before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. How can you use what we talked about today in your own life? How can you face challenges with more faith and resilience, knowing that even when things are tough, Allah is with you? Think about that. And may your journey be full of strength, peace, and a deeper connection with Allah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, may your hearts be filled with light, and may your paths be guided by faith.